Story 1. Am I the a-hole for refusing to replenish a college trust for my deceased husband's affair child? I, 52 female, am in an unusual situation and need an outside perspective, but want to maintain my anonymity. 18 years ago, it was revealed at my husband's funeral that he had a pregnant mistress, 40 female. Obviously, I didn't just take the woman's word for it and stated that she wouldn't get a cent until there was a DNA test. When it was proven true, I was devastated, but agreed to set up a trust for the child for college and agreed to let him live in one of my rental properties in a good area rent-free until her child was 18. She had to pay for utilities. She agreed, and I made it clear that I wasn't going to do anything else for her or the child. I also made it clear that I wouldn't take on the responsibility of fostering a relationship between our children and that it would be my husband's side of the family's job. Fast forward 12 years and the mistress's child got sick and needed medical treatment. She didn't have enough money for what insurance wouldn't cover and reached out to me for support. I reminded her of what our original agreement was and to borrow money from relatives for assistance. She said her credit wasn't good enough for a loan at the time and she didn't have anyone who she could borrow the money from. When I wasn't budging, she got upset and accused me of being a monster for not helping a child in need. I reminded her that I already helped her child by setting up a college trust, but she could use some of that money for the costs if she really needed it. She agreed and her child pulled through. Now that the child is 18 and intending to go to college in the fall of 2021, the mistress reached out to me about the trust and was upset when she found out that the amount was much less than what was originally agreed upon. I reminded her it was less because some of the money was used for medical bills and that I never said I would put the money back in. I also informed her that I was going to start charging her rent the following year and she would need to pay or move out. I didn't care that she was upset because I was always straightforward about the situation, but now my mother-in-law and sister-in-law are starting to say that it's unfair to the child. I don't see it that way because the mistress had at least 6 more years to figure something out, so am I the a-hole? No, you're not the a-hole. I do not believe that you're the a-hole at all. You set up a trust for a child that is not even yours, and you gave them a place to live for 18 years only paying utilities. I think that's pretty generous and reasonable. Like, you shouldn't be expected to do more. Honestly, most people wouldn't even have done that much for them. And the fact that there's not as much money for the child to go to college, look, I got very little money for going to college. Now, granted, yes, I have debts for college that I'm paying off, but still, there are other ways to pay for it if the kid wants to go to college. And that mom has had 18 years to set aside some of her own money for college and do some of her own stuff or whatever. So, no, it's not on you. Like, you could, it would be really nice and generous, but I really don't believe that you should have to do that, and you should not feel guilty about the money you've given them and stuff you've already done for them not being enough. No, that's weird to me. Story 2. You want a meeting to discuss our phone account? Okay, let's have a meeting. I'm not sure if this belongs in petty revenge or malicious compliance, for there's a little of both. So sorry if this has been put in the wrong place. Either way, I've enjoyed my malicious revenge compliance, so I hope you do. For the past few years, our business has been receiving telemarketing calls from an offshore call center trying to make appointments for Optus Business Center. Every time they called, we'd politely tell them we're not interested and to remove us from their list, and they'd promise not to call again. You can probably tell by my use of the words every time that having ourselves removed from the list didn't work. It didn't work the first time, and it didn't work the 50th time. Offshores are cheap and get paid per appointment, so they would get quite aggressive. It was clear that a new strategy needed to be found, as it was taking too long to get them to bugger off. So began my campaign of malicious compliance / petty revenge. Hi, we're calling from Optus Business Center, and we can save you 40% on your mobile phone bill. Can we come and see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.? Can you save me 40% of my mobile bill? That's like 60 grand a month. What? How many phones do you have? 150 or so that I'm responsible for directly, plus a few others. The appointment is quickly confirmed. The next day, a salesman calls me up saying he's running early. Can we meet earlier? I refused. Our appointment is for 11 a.m. after all. 11 a.m. rolls around and he walks. We sit down in reception and go through the greetings. I then ask him if it's possible to make the telemarketing calls stop now. He assures me that it is, and so I stand up, shake his hand, and thank him for coming in. What? That's it? You could have said that over the phone. I point out that we did. many times, and it didn't work. And I hoped that this waste of his time, 45 minutes trips from Homebush to Sydney, would perhaps teach him to mend his ways. Over the past 2 years, they've sent out 5 different reps to see us. They call for meetings, we accept them, shine them on about the value of the account, and they roll in to be greeted by me dressed in a chicken suit, made to wait in our meeting room for 20 minutes before being asked to be removed from the list, being turned away at the door. They sent 2 reps that time. I'm posting this today because it was visit number 6 and it was the best yet. We got a repeat customer. I sat him down in the meeting room and we played the video recording of our last meeting. Is that you? Yes, it is me. Didn't I follow up? Did we have a good meeting? I pointed out that I certainly enjoyed our last meeting and zoomed forward in the video to the part where I explain that we didn't have 500 mobile accounts and he needed to please remove us from their list or you could see his heart break, which it did again, once he realized that whatever account he thought he was being discussed today was not going to be discussed, which we also have on video so we can go all Inception when he shows his face again. While I will have some small amount of sympathy for these salespeople because they're just people who wanna, they're just trying to make a living. Probably a lot of them, they're not, they're just another cog in the machine of the crappy company they work for. But when you're that insistent, and when you're not taking people off a call list, and when you're just being like that, sorry, yeah, you got that stuff coming. I'm sorry. I feel bad that you have to deal with that, and it makes your day suck, but you're just making other people's days sucks. If you give suck, you get suck. Suck breeds suck. It's a world of suck. Just stop sucking. Story 3. My ex was sleeping with our paralegal before our divorce. I'm going to try to make this as short as possible. I was in town with my kids and needed to get my son's stuffed bunny from his dad's, so I called him several times, didn't answer, figured I was right there, would see if he was home. His car was there. I went up to the door, rang the bell, called again, no answer, but the door was open, so we walked up to his apartment. I knock, and a female answers the door, but not just any female, a female I immediately notice as being the paralegal who handled our recent mediated divorce. She confirms that that's who she is, and I calmly excuse myself. Well, come to find out that they had been seeing each other and sleeping together prior to the divorce process, and that was why he insisted we use the law firm we did. She was the one who wrote up our paperwork, and I confided in her things about my ex all the while she was sleeping with him. To say I feel violated is an understatement. I feel like there was coercion on their part in order to manipulate me into not pursuing certain things, and it was just morally and ethically wrong that she handled any part of our divorce. She had every incentive to push us through for her own romantic gain. She called me crying that she feels bad, and she's never going to talk to him again, and blah, 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 maintains that she was a professional, and they've never been in a relationship. It's semantics. You were sleeping with my husband. Oh, and they are still friends because he's seen her every day since this happened, which makes me believe this was more of a manipulation. There is nothing professional about what happened. I don't know what to do. My friend and attorney said to file an ethics complaint, which I've already written up and sent to him for review. My ex, who used to physically abuse me, has been threatening that if I do anything to harm her, there will be repercussions. He doesn't scare me, but we have children together, and I don't know what he's capable of. Plus, he's been refusing to pay child support and said he will not pay if I pursue anything against her. I'm a single mom of 2 small children, and money is an issue. I have not a single romantic feeling for that man, but I do not feel that I received fair representation based on these morally and ethically dishonest practices. Legally, what can I do? How can I protect myself? Boy, I hope that you either get it recorded or in writing, save whatever evidence that your ex-husband has been, threatening you if you pursue any action against her, because that's just icing on the cake of your case against them. I do not I hate this ex-husband. What he's doing, they know it's immoral. And, absolutely, him sleeping with his paralegal from that, all of that is so scummy and should be illegal. I think it has to be illegal, right? If it's not, Anyway, yeah, just document everything that he says, everything that he threatens. You just add that to the stack of papers that you turn in to just drag him across the coals, because screw him that he would try and not do child support because of this. That's not getting back at you That's getting back at his own children, and for that, he deserves to have his balls put in a vice, figuratively speaking, and literally. Story 4. Fired from job, gave all company shirts to homeless people in neighborhood. I worked for a company in Austin, Texas for over a decade, and in that time had amassed over 30 company shirts. I had a pile of polo shirts and button-ups. The company was a high-end specialist retail and corporate sales place that had really nice bathrooms. After the company was sold to a genuine prick, he decided to fire a good quantity of about 100 employees, including me. Anyone who knows Austin knows the huge number of homeless people living under highways. So after my firing, I passed out shirts to all the local homeless population, telling them that if they wore the shirts, they could use the bathrooms in the store. Man, you get to just stick it to a company that wronged you, and you get to help out the homeless at the same time. This is a win-win in my book. And I know that the company would try and put a stop to that, and the homeless people wouldn't get to use it very much. But they got some nice new shirts that they get to, wear. And maybe they got to use it for a bit, and maybe that company got to learn a lesson. I hope that company got to learn a lesson, because I hate when stuff like that happens. I hate when people buy companies and then just gut it. It's just gross. It's so, it's the worst side of capitalism. Try and support it. You can say whatever nice things you want to about capitalism, but there is a darker side, and I just hate to see it. But I love to see people doing stuff like this in response to it. Story 5. Am I the a-hole for hanging up on my wife when she used my words against me? I, 37, have been working late the last few weeks, 6 to 6:30, 7/12s. My wife Elizabeth, 41, not her real name, and I were talking a few nights ago while I was doing the dishes. I had also done the weekly grocery shopping, bathed, and put our daughter to bed. Elizabeth's day was busy too. She works full-time, drops off / picks up our kid at school, and has taken her to dancing. She started telling me about problems at work. I listened for a few minutes, then she started complaining about my family and their communication skills. We have a family get-together this weekend, and the plans are unclear because my family are poor communicators. I acknowledged this, then said, "Can we talk about something more positive? I want to talk with and spend time with you, but I'd like to discuss things that build me up." She stopped, stared daggers at me, and said that was not okay, and walked off upstairs. The next day I was coming home early but hit traffic. She called when I was in the car. We chatted. Then she said I sounded upset and asked me what's wrong. I said, I'm aggravated because for the first time in 2 weeks I left work after 10 hours, not 12, but got caught in traffic. And I'm going to get home at the same time anyway. She said, how would you feel if I said, can we talk about something more positive? I hung up. I got home about 5 minutes later, and when I walked in the door, she said, that was not okay. After dinner, I said, I know you're upset, so let's discuss it now so it doesn't fester. Elizabeth said that last night she just needed to vent and needed me to listen. I said I could listen to some, but was so worn out I didn't have the capacity to listen to much negativity. I said I know my family's communication skills are poor, but I still didn't want to hear her bash them minutes on end. Elizabeth said it wasn't okay I hung up on her and I was out of line. I said, you asked me what was bothering me, then when I told you, you said, can we talk about something more positive? I felt like you baited me. Then took a shot at me because you were upset about last night. She said it wasn't a shot. I'd effing know if she took an effing shot. She was trying to teach me empathy for another human because I'm not empathetic. I apologized for hanging up on her and said that there was a better way I could have handled that interaction by saying something like, that felt like a shot, was that your intent? Elizabeth said, why does that feel like a shot? That's a you thing. You need to work on how you take things I give. Give me the benefit of the doubt. You're the one who's taking shots at me. You always believe the worst of me. I said that I'd try to give her the benefit of the doubt in the future, but this situation felt like she was coming at me. She insists she was just trying to teach me how to have empathy. Part of me thinks this is one of those shoes not so comfortable on the other foot, but I also feel these are different. I need some help sorting through if I'm the a-hole. I don't know how I feel about this. We're only kind of getting this from one person's perspective, and this really feels like a situation where it would benefit to have both people's perspective and how the conversations were going. I don't think it's wrong for a person to set up a boundary like, look, hey, could we talk about something more positive together? I want to connect with you, but I've had a hard day and this is a lot for me. And if the other person is feeling like, no, I need to get this out, how could you shut me down? Don't just be like, that's not okay. No, if you gotta talk, like, you have to then say your side, like, okay, I hear you, but this is really important to me right now. If we don't talk about this now, could we talk about this after dinner or something? Like, I'm gonna kind of put this on her because she is the one who just went, not okay, and stormed away, at least from what we know. And that's not good communication. Like, yeah, she does feel that she needs to get this out, and he kind of put a stop to that, but he wasn't able to handle it at that time, and I think that's valid. So I think, yeah, if he's going to say that, maybe he could have added, like, hey, could we finish talking about this, like, after dinner? I just need to decompress for a little bit first. It's a little much right now. But she also he missed that opportunity, but she should have made her feelings known instead of just, mwah. And it does feel like she was, like, baiting him with that and trying to take a shot at him. Like, that's a snotty way to teach a lesson, I think. I don't know exactly how I feel about that, but yeah, his whole hanging up on her, also not healthy. There's a lot of communication issues going on here that these two need to resolve. But hey, just learn. I don't know. Story 6. I reported my former landlord to the IRS for tax fraud as revenge for him making up lies on me to keep my deposit. He had to file for bankruptcy and lost his condo. I'm glad he lost his effing house. I found this guy on Craigslist a few years ago. I like renting condos from private owners as opposed to renting apartments. Typically, by renting a condo, it's safer, you have more caring residents, you get to have a luxury apartment-style home with all the amenities, and you can negotiate pricing, etc. I'm an excellent tenant, and anyone who I've rented from will tell you that. I paid a $1,000 deposit to move into this guy's condo. I was on a year lease. He lives in another state, but we were in the same time zone. On month 8 of my lease, I came home to a door that wouldn't open. I couldn't get the door unlocked for crap. I have 2 keys on me. As much as I tried to turn them, I couldn't. One of the keys even broke in the lock. I waited 2 hours. I called, texted, and emailed my landlord, and he did not pick up. I thought maybe he had someone to change the locks for some reason. I honestly didn't know what to think and had no one to help me. The lady who lived across from me saw me in distress as she was going into her apartment. I'd never seen her, but she asked me if I were okay, and I explained to her that I couldn't get into my apartment. She told me that she knows of an on-call locksmith. She gives me his number. I tell her thanks and reach out to my landlord a few more times. No response. I had no choice but to call the locksmith, plus I had to pee like crap. The locksmith arrived and could not get the door unlocked with my key. He said he can replace the lock for like $100. I told him I was renting a condo and couldn't get in touch with the owner and didn't know when he would be the next time I could get in touch with him. After he took the lock off, he told me it was faulty. So he replaced the lock. I told the landlord this via email and text and voicemail and told him that I could send him copies of the keys if he wanted. Okay, so fast forward to the end of my lease. I demand that he does a walkthrough with me. He said he wouldn't. I told him that if he didn't do a walkthrough, I would be notifying the condo office as he did not have permission to sublease by the association. He then had a friend to serve as his proxy to come meet me and walk through the unit. The place was spotless. I know how to clean. I took multiple photos and videos and showed his proxy, who was a police officer, the unit. Actually, they're both police officers who used to work together. We both literally tested all the appliances, faucets, checked the blinds, carpets, hardwood, everything. His proxy gave me the okay and said that everything looked great. I gave his proxy the keys and later that night left for my new city. So fast forward to a month later, I haven't heard from him about my deposit. He ignored all my emails and phone calls. He finally gets back to me 2 months after I moved out and has all this ridiculous made-up crap about how I damaged his unit. Broken blinds, scratches on the hardwood floor. He made it seem like I damaged his door by getting the lock replaced. He said there were scratches on the outside of his door, rust here and there, broken dishware, washer, broken sink, oven was broken dryer. Shake my effing head, just all the effing lies. I would never leave a unit in that condition. He sent me an itemized list of all the charges that magically came out to be $1,000, the same as my deposit. He was always planning to keep my money. He wanted that money to either ball on it or upgrade his condo. I hated him. I decided I wasn't going to go to court because I'd moved to a different state and lived alone, but I thought of something. He rented to me under the table and likely didn't claim my rent payment as earned income. I had all my wire transfers on my bank statement. I had his routing and account number and a copy of his driver's license as we agreed to swap IDs when I signed the lease to make sure I wasn't getting scammed. I found out his state address online, gathered all my bank statements, gathered his bank account numbers, and made a report to the IRS. About a few years later, I checked up on things, and that bastard lost his condo and lost everything he owned in bankruptcy. I paid for and downloaded his court records and saw proof that he lost everything, including his condo and cars, and had his bank account seized. I'm not sure if he went to jail or anything, but I'm so glad that bastard got his effing karma. He stole money from me that I gave him to rent a condo, and he ended up losing that same condo to bankruptcy. F him and anyone who calls him a friend. He can rot for all I care. I will always love a story where the landlord gets what he deserves. Seriously, bad landlords, why do you think that this stuff isn't going to come back and bite you in the rear? And especially the things that landlords will do to keep your deposit. I've known so many different landlords that I've dealt with, that friends have dealt with, where it does not matter how spotless, how much you check, they will try to keep that deposit. And I just hate it so much. Sometimes people leave places a mess, keep the deposit to fix it back up. But so many landlords are just like, no, the deposit's the money that I just get. And I get to just say that they didn't do something right, and that's why I get to have it now. No, you're a scuzzy piece of crap. And I'm so happy that this happened, because you know what? If you're going to be scuzzy and you're going to rip people off, those people are going to try and get back at you eventually. And yeah, you went into bankruptcy. That sucks. It seems like too much for what you did, but you know what? You were doing bad crap and it led to bankruptcy. It's really on you. It's 100% on you. If you're going to be an a-hole, then you're going to have to deal with some crap. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.